What's up, real ones? Welcome to Let's View It. It's me, your host with the most something, Tyrone Cross. And I'm back with another video. This video, I haven't done one of these videos in a long time. I used to do responses to atheists. Now before I start this video and everybody gets all grumpy, I don't care if you're an atheist. I do believe in God. But I'm not religious whatsoever. I do not claim religion. I do not go to church. I don't like religions. And I respect whatever you want to believe. The only reason why I make these videos is I like to show the flaws in the atheist arguments just for people to think about. Because I do believe that if you're going to believe in something and basically bet and live your whole life by what you believe, you should really know why you're choosing to believe something. And unfortunately, atheists make a lot of flawed arguments that sound good at surface, but they got a lot of holes in them, and they are not mic drop moments, even though they present them as mic drop moments. So anyways, I like to make these videos, for my boy, G.O.D., because he finds them kind of entertaining too. Maybe. Well, hopefully. And if he doesn't, it's his fault because he's the one that made my talent, right? So you already know. Let's view it.
God almost certainly does not exist, and one of the main reasons I feel so confident saying that is because all of the arguments for God's existence come from humans. The holy books, the ontological argument, the cosmological argument, the arguments from beauty, etc. All of these arguments are just things that humans have made up, and none of it is good enough to convince me that a God exists.
Well, that's a good point. God must certainly not exist because all the proof comes from the people he created. And that's ridiculous. Why would that prove there's a God? And all the proof that comes from the people that he created is not good enough to me. And the reason why it's not good enough to me is because I'm smart enough to use the same scrutiny and logic as a justice system. And if God can't bring me unrefutable evidence, then he most certainly doesn't exist. And I'm not counting the people or the trees or nature or a conscience, or a soul, even though science can't explain those. I need good evidence that doesn't come from humans. And I don't care if all our evidence have come from humans. In this case, it better not come from God's creation. The humans.
I get asked sometimes what it would take for me to start believing in a God, and the answer is so simple. It's God. If God were a real entity, it could interact with me, and I would immediately start believing that it exists. But the fact that God doesn't do that, the fact that God provides me no evidence for its existence, shows me that God either does not exist at all, that's the most probable answer, it doesn't care if I believe in it or not, or it is an actively evil God that created me with the sole intention of torturing me forever in the afterlife, and that's why it lets me continue to not believe in it.
Another solid point. If God existed, then he would do what I expect him to do. He would interact with me because I believe that's what he should do. He would speak directly to me and do all these other things to make me believe because I decided that's what he would do. You guys don't understand. We get to decide what God should do. And if he doesn't do it, it's because he's not real. The way I found out God wasn't real, I thought if he's real, he should make my channel blow up and dump billions of dollars into my bank account. And he didn't do it. Fake ass God. Hey, it ain't my fault that I shoot for the moon when it comes to God proving himself to me. You're the one that settled for a voice conversation. I just want millions and my channel to blow up.
If I told you I have a friend named Jason, and Jason is a great dude. In fact, Jason loves and cares about you more than anyone you've ever met. Jason knows everything about you also. Jason even knew you before you were born, and Jason knows every single thing you're going to do throughout your life. You'd probably want to know how and why Jason feels that way towards you, and how and why Jason knows all of those things about you. You'd probably want to meet Jason for yourself, right? And that makes sense. Why would Jason, this person that you've never even met, love you so much? And why would Jason know so much about you when you don't know anything about them at all? If you're like me, you want answers to these questions, and you want the answers to come from Jason. It should be Jason's job to explain himself.
Yeah, again, another good point. Anytime you make an analogy about God, you use a regular person because they're basically like the same thing. And that's exactly why this really smart guy called Jason this person, and you want to know how he knows all these things about you. Of course, I already know how he knows all these things about you because you responded to that email. He's a scammer. And I don't want to hear anything, well, God might have more powers than Jason. I don't want to hear that because in my mind, I already decided that God and a man, they're like the same thing.
It should not be the job of humans to defend God's existence. God should do that. Just like you shouldn't have to hear about Jason from me. You should be able to just go interact directly with Jason yourself. You shouldn't have to hear about God from prophets and other believers. You should be able to interact directly with God yourself so God can answer all of the questions that you have about it. And the fact that every religion says that you can't, and every religion has safeguards set up, and excuse after excuse after excuse to explain away why you can't interact directly with God should give you pause. It should make you doubt the idea of God's existence more, not believe in it more.
Well, damn, he got me now having to pretend like I even know what he's talking about at this point. But yeah, you should be able to see Jason directly. If he knows all this information, this guy shouldn't be telling you. You should be able to see Jason. But since Jason is a scammer, he's gonna keep his distance from you. And I don't know how you solve that problem. You can call a fraud hotline, but they don't do that much. There really isn't that much protection if a scammer scams you. So if he has your information, I would just get new credit cards, change your banking account, do the necessary things to keep yourself safe. It's gonna be a pain, but you gotta do what you gotta do because Jason is not gonna let you meet him. And by the way, that was another solid point. Man-made religions are always good to use to prove God doesn't exist. Even though God technically existed before all these man-made religions, man-made religion proves that God doesn't exist.
Some of the excuses you should be on the lookout for, by the way, are when people say things like, God actually can't interact directly with us because that would interfere with our free will. Or, if you did see God, you'd lose your mind and go crazy. Or, God actually exists outside of space and time, and so we can't directly interface with it. That's actually why. All of these things are just nonsense excuses that people have set up to try to keep you from trying to interact directly with God, because if you did try, what you would find is that it's not actually there.
He's right. Space and time is a bunch of sci-fi nonsense. I mean, God is nonsense. Space and time is real. That's from science. And let me throw this out there just in case you geniuses think you got a point. Just because, the president and everything can control us, even though we don't interact directly through him, but he uses his people to get his messages to us, to reach out to us. Don't think that God does that. Don't think God uses people. When it comes to God, you need to talk to him directly.
The day, if God exists and so does an afterlife, and belief in God is essential to having a blissful afterlife, then God should provide me with enough evidence to believe in it. It's God. It knows exactly what it would take to convince me, and so it is actively choosing to not do that. And so I am actively choosing to not believe in it until it does something, literally anything, to make itself worthy of belief. And on that note, I'm going to be over here being good without God, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.
That wasn't fake happiness. That was a real smile, and he was so sincere. He wants you to have a happy day because apparently he's going to have one, as you can see, because God certainly isn't real. And the proof is because I'm actively ignoring all the evidence and he's actively not doing more. So he's obviously not real. Don't tell me people are proof of God. Obviously we came from monkeys. And no, not any old monkey. It was a certain monkey, a certain type of monkey that became a human. And it was that certain type of monkey because it was in a certain area doing certain human things that made it want to lose its hair and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and donuts and drink a whole lot of coffee. and then created a government system full of lies and politics that tell us that we came from apes. And that's scientifically proven. Have I seen the proof? No, but I know it's proven because I have a feeling in my heart that God certainly doesn't exist, so it must be proven. I got one more clip of an atheist's flawless arguments that God doesn't exist, but after this first clip, I feel like I'm wasting my time because he clearly doesn't exist. Look at all this proof I've just shown you.
What proof and evidence do you have that atheism is accurate and correct?
The question is ill-formed. The question is, what proof and evidence do you have that atheism is true? Well, atheism is the position of not accepting the theological explanation. It is not accepting the God hypothesis. It is, in fact, the null hypothesis. It cannot be proven to be true. It is the default position. And Christianity and Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam, they have all failed to meet their burden of proof. It's not up to me to prove that there are no gods any more than it's up to me to prove that there isn't Bigfoot or fairies or UFOs. The default position, the null hypothesis, is that these things aren't true. And we wait and reserve belief until they are demonstrated to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. But
Cool.
Does that mean that atheism is not a worldview?
That's correct. Atheism isn't a worldview. It doesn't have any tenets or dogma, no books, no authorities. It is a single position on a single question, the existence of God.
That's absolutely right. Atheism is not a worldview because, like he said, there's all kinds of different ways you can believe in not having a God. While there's only thousands of different ways to believe you're a Christian. So that's a worldview. Wait. God damn it. Did I just make myself sound stupid? Is believing in the Big Bang and evolution a worldview? That's part of atheism. Is reincarnation a worldview? I think that fits under atheism too. Nah, it's not a worldview. But now that you know, God most certainly doesn't exist because I refuse to see the evidence and he refuses to do more for me to see the evidence. All I need you guys to do is comment below. Tell me what you think. Do you think it's a good point for me to say I refuse to see the evidence and God refused to show me more, so now I most certainly know he doesn't exist? Or did you just learn that atheism is not a worldview? But while you're telling me your thoughts, I'm also gonna need you to hit that bell like the hunchback. Also click that hit checker button and subscribe with me. And I'll see you on the next trip. Day and night.
Keep it real, keep it real, keep it real.
All my life.
Keep it real, keep it real, keep it real.
Can't help
Keep it real, keep it real, keep it real.